up, dude?
What's up,
You got a stash? You, bro. It's been too long.
It has been a minute. You know, I was just looking you up a little bit before I came because we both went to high school together.
Oh, yeah.
We both ended up with 4 kids. I've got 3 girls and a boy. And
I have the opposite of that. I have 3 boys and a girl.
Where's your girl fall in?
She's second oldest.
Second oldest?
Yeah.
Okay. Our boy's the caboose. We had 3 girls, thought we were done. And then we had a little caboose boy later on.
That's awesome.
Yeah, which has been, it's been fun to experience the boy dad thing.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Tell us about your journey. Like, you've been unbelievably successful, kind of flying under the radar in terms of like, you know, you have all these like kind of like Utah famous entrepreneurs. But what you built at Disruptive is quite remarkable. And you've been at it for a while. Remember when we were running that dev shop in
South Provo,
in the old Novell campus, and Disruptive, I think, was in that same building. There for a while. To see like you grow and build that thing into something has been awesome. What give me a sense for the journey, man. I mean, how did it all start?
Yeah. I'll zoom way out and then we can dive bomb anything we feel like doing there. But I did information systems at BYU, and I'm always have been more of a marketing and sales oriented individual that got a tech degree and went and worked for Omniture, which was the hot company at the time.
Yeah, with Josh.
And then that's where I developed the hard skill of how do you get good data to inform strong marketing decisions. And so that was the skill set, right?
Yeah.
And then fast forward, I just thought I'd be an analytics consultant when I started freelancing, breaking off on my own, doing those types of things.
Yeah.
And so the name of the company was Found ROI.
Really?
That was the first name of the company.
That's cool.
And it didn't stick very well because the idea was I'm going to help you find the ROI in your data so that you can outsmart your competition, not have to outspend them.
Yeah.
Right. And everyone kept asking, well, what's Foundroy? Like it was some off-brand, Where's Waldo?
That's probably, I probably would have called it Foundroy.
Yeah.
I'm terrible with company names. I always get company names wrong.
Yeah. So that's where I shifted it to disruptive advertising. And really what it came down to is I would get people great data so that they could know what to do with their marketing, but then most of them lacked the bandwidth or expertise to actually do it.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, can you just do it for me, Jake? Yeah. And I was like, I'll figure it out. That's what we do as entrepreneurs, right? Yeah, you bet. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And so that's when I broke off, started disruptive advertising. That was, I consider the full-time when I no longer had my full-time job was September of 2013. So it was all freelance side hustle stuff until that point.
Okay. Yeah.
And so this will be, 12 years doing that thing. And while I did have a business partner originally, that didn't last long, like literally 2 or 3 months. So some of that journey, and that's mostly what it is. That's what disruptive advertising still does today. How we help them get good data and how we help them execute good marketing around that is always evolving.
Yeah.
But then it just went from me freelancing on the side out of my basement to, over the last 12 years, we've done probably 160 million in revenue. And I've kind of gone the non-traditional route. I haven't had formal business partners, haven't raised capital, haven't sought to sell the business either.
Yeah.
I've kind of just created my own exit through just running a good, profitable business for a decade.
Yeah.
And on that journey, I just feel like entrepreneurship is like speed dating in getting to know yourself.
Yeah.
That's what entrepreneurship feels like to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because I feel like the moments when we get to know ourselves the most is when we have to break through a fear or a challenge that we've been avoiding for a while.
Yeah.
And so a few years into the journey is where I felt like I had to work through that first one, which was, well, if I make enough money and have enough outwardly success, then I'll finally feel like I'm enough on the inside, and all of these things that I'm struggling with will like go away. With the and one of the ones I was struggling with the most was my marriage.
Yeah.
Right. And at that point we had 3 kids. We were building a bigger house. We were having all of the outward success that we thought, hey, things will be great when we have these things.
Yeah.
But it wasn't working.
Yeah.
And we were at the point where it's like, if it stays this way, this is not going to work.
Yeah.
And So she found a marriage counselor for us to start seeing. And it was like a joke. I went and like, I did not respect the guy. He was right out of college. I'm like, how are you going to help us? You don't understand anything, what's going on here. And that was my mindset, my attitude at the time.
Sure.
So I said, if that's what this is, like, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
We'll just figure it out.
Yeah.
And Teresa, who also went to high school with us, was a year younger than us.
Oh yeah.
But I think she's the same age.
Yeah. We should tell viewers we got we went to Spanish Fork High School together, graduated the same year in 2003, dude. Remember it very well.
Yeah.
I remember playing basketball with you a lot. Did we play basketball a lot?
We did. It seemed like we were peripheral friends. Our friends were friends.
Yeah.
And so we always knew each other and were friendly, but not super close.
Yeah.
And anyway, bless Teresa's heart, she actually reached out to a practice owner and said, hey, I don't think my husband will respect anyone on your staff. Would you be willing to personally meet with us? And he's like, yeah, I'll do that for you guys. And so on Saturday mornings, he made time to fit us in. Oh. And again, one of the fears of working through, and again, that's what I think entrepreneurship is about, is you can start hiding behind your business and financial success and not address the actual things going on in your life.
Yeah.
And in one of those sessions, he had us read the book Leadership and Self-Deception by the Aversion Institute.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
it's been a while since I've read that.
Yeah. I'll tell you another story, but I just had him speak at our first conference.
Interesting. Okay.
The author of that book, which felt like a full circle moment. And I've been helping him with his marketing for his business. But anyway, in that, after we'd read it, and I'm like, okay, maybe I'm part of the problem here, because I was mostly going because I'm like, once Teresa sees she's the problem, then we can move forward with our lives and it's going to be okay. Because just looking for that diagnosis of it's everyone else, Jake, it's not you.
Yeah.
And
that validation. It's like, you're fine, man. This is all her.
Clearly.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're working through that. After finishing that book, we're in a session and he's telling me about Disruptive, And so I'm like, oh, we just passed 10 million in revenue.
Yeah.
We just did this epic celebration with tuxes and gowns at Sundance and all of these things. And like, this is so cool. Like, look at me.
Yeah.
See, I'm not the problem.
Yeah.
Clearly I'm the badass in the room here.
Yeah.
And he said, well, how does your business partner feel about all of this? And I said, what do you mean? I don't have a business partner. And he's like, oh, that's interesting that you see it that way. And then he looked at my wife and then he looked back at me. And that was that moment where I was confronted with a belief. It was an uncomfortable moment.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden I'm thinking, well, dude, she's not my business partner.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I don't see her like my partner.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I realized, I'm like, what would it be like to be married to someone for 10 years at that point?
Yeah.
3 kids, supports your ambitions, makes everything that you're working on possible, and you don't see her and treat her like a partner in the relationship.
Yeah.
And that was like that out of body moment where I'm like, shit, I'm that guy. I'm the problem here.
Yeah.
And so that was like, I'll never forget that moment. Bless that man's heart for asking the hard question, for reading that book. And that's when I realized a lot of what business had become for me. It was this beautiful, just see what you can do and build something cool. But then I started attaching myself to it and using it as a tool to hide from the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And so that was the kind of like the first, kind of had some of the outward success, but then started to actually deal with what was really going on. And it was because of that we ended up with our caboose son, because we thought we were done with kids, mostly because we didn't like each other.
You're right. Yeah.
Why would we have more kids together?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And then, so that was a powerful moment. And what I realized at that point was, if business represents a way for me to get away from life and not show up that way, then I don't know if I want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so that's where the business started to evolve from, well, what would feel great? What would feel awesome? And well, what if work was actually a place to practice life? Right.
Interesting.
What if it was an environment for me and those that I worked with where we could do self-reflection, personal growth, development, and build something cool together at the same time? And so that's when I started introducing So after that marriage counseling session, I said, I need to work on me. Right. And I was struggling with all the coping mechanisms that I'd developed throughout my life to cope. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go see like an addiction recovery therapist. I'm going to start working on my stuff. I'm going to like see what I can do. And then full Jake style, I spent like $500,000 on like therapy, coaching, conferences, retreats. Like I'm going to fix myself. Like that was the next entrepreneurial endeavor, which is easy to get addicted to, fixing yourself.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And at the end of that, what I realized, it really came down to three things, which is in the book that I'm publishing this year, in the courses that I teach, everything's based off of three things. You're your own best coach, you're your own best guru. Life is your teacher. There's three principles that matter. And that is awareness, honesty, and responsibility. If you're not aware of it, there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
Once you're aware of it, you've got to be honest with yourself about what's going on. Not judgmental.
Yeah.
Just be honest.
Yeah.
What's the payoff? Why am I living this way? Why am I choosing these things? And then that's what always leads us to responsibility. Okay, now that I'm being honest, I know the next step forward.
Yeah.
So what I became aware of with Teresa, just to like illustrate, I am aware that I am showing up in my relationship and not treating her like a partner. I'm aware of that, and that's painful. Why am I doing that? What is the payoff? Well, because if I blame her, then I don't have to change.
Yeah.
That's my payoff.
Yeah.
That's my drug. That's what I keep coming back for seconds and thirds with.
Yeah.
Well, does that serve me moving forward? Is that true for me? And the answer was, no, she is my partner.
Yeah.
So what's the next step? Okay, I need to start addressing some of these things that I'm kind of hiding and not really dealing with in my life, you know?
Right.
And so there's the tip of the podcast, right? Like you don't have to go spend $500,000 in years trying to fix yourself. It's like awareness, honesty, and responsibility is what it comes down to. And then that's where disruptive, I had a bigger goal beyond just making money at that point. I want an environment where people can practice, learn, grow, and develop and build something cool together. Yeah. And that's when I started introducing courses that internally was Disruptive University, practicing awareness, honesty, and responsibility that leads you to your authentic path forward. And that's what I've started taking external to my business the last couple of years, as well as I've developed Disruptive University and this Authenticity Wins podcast and other things that I'm getting launched as well. Yeah. So that's kind of like the long journey.
Yeah. So you said a lot there, and I have a lot of questions to follow up from that. But first, you said something where you were attaching your identity to disruptive. Like that's like who you were. And because it was successful, you were successful, right? But the opposite also happens to all of us, right? Like if you attach your identity to your company and to what you're working on, if it's successful, that's actually, not healthy. And if it's unsuccessful, like if the business is not doing well, that's not who you are. Yeah. You're not either of those things. No. You're not the success and you're not the failures of your business. You know what I mean? And I think the message and what you're preaching is so needed, particularly now, because I see so many people who just attach their entire identity to the company they're running or working for or to their career. And that's not you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So the fact that you figured that out and became aware of that is beautiful. There's actually a great book, you've probably read it, called Awareness. By Anthony DeMello. He's this like Jesuit. You should totally read it. Okay. He's like this Jesuit priest, coach. He was a therapist. Like, and it talks a lot about you are not the things, like who you are is different than what you do. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? He says it a lot better. He has like this whole thing between the me and the I and all those types of things. But, that part is way interesting. And then, so tell us, like, once you become aware and you do all these courses and, conferences and like, hey, I'm going to work on myself, that type of stuff. So you gain that awareness. That next piece sounds kind of hard, the honesty piece, right? Mm-hmm. How do you get to that spot for yourself? And how do you have empathy for yourself in that too, right? Because most likely we're all the problem. You know what I mean? What I mean? Like
we're experiencing our creation.
We're eventually going to be like, it's eventually going to come down to like, you watch any movie, read any novel, anything. It eventually like, the main character is the problem.
Yeah.
And you're the main character in your life. So you're the problem, right? So you get to that point where like, hey, I am the problem. Now, how do you not go too hard on yourself in the honesty piece? Right. where you don't have empathy for the person that you were before you became aware.
Yeah. It's interesting because I feel like when we hold on to the past, that's where I feel like that's more of like where depression comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're consumed about the future, that's where anxiety comes from. But neither of those are real either.
Yeah.
Like that's not what's right now. Right. And so there was a lot of times where I told myself I'd done it wrong and I needed to fix myself because I'd been doing it wrong. And that's often one of the false premise of what it means to live authentically, to live presently, to live uniquely. We're all a unique expression.
Mm-hmm.
And to judge that we've been doing it wrong is to deny everything. Life itself, we did it wrong. To me, authenticity is I am now aware that continuing to do it this way moving forward would no longer feel authentic to me.
Right.
And that's where I would be crossing. I wouldn't be honest with myself. I wouldn't be true to myself if I kept living this way now because I'm aware now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Once you hit awareness, there's no going back.
You can go back, but it is really painful when you do because it's like
that's true. Because
you're taking
aware.
it all back on. Yeah.
You're aware that you're doing it at that point.
And so I think that there is some beauty and power in learning how to love your past, because how else could I be so distinctly aware of the relationship I want with my wife now, which is to see her as a partner, as an equal that is unique, just like I am unique, but not better or worse.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I don't think that I could comprehend what we have in our relationship now. I wouldn't have my fourth kid, Xander.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like on the other side of working through that pain was awesome life experiences that I never could have predicted for myself. And so one of the things where like my favorite saying is it's not an adventure until you don't know what's next.
Yeah.
Because it's the mind that's always trying to anticipate. And you're living through the mind when you're trying to control what's going to happen next versus just showing up and living. And so when I come back to your question, which is how can you be like loving with yourself as you become aware of these things? It's don't judge your past, just learn from it.
Yeah.
Right. It's like a total Mufasa in the clouds Simba moment. Like just remember who you are, learn from your past. Don't get hit by Rafiki on the head again when he swings his thing at you. It's like when you learn from your past and move forward, you get to love your past, the positives, the negatives, all of the things that happened, because that's what makes you unique. That's what allows you to bring something unique to the world. And so I go back to all those versions of me and I'm like, I just give them all a big hug and say, I have no advice to give you other than it's all going to work out. Just keep doing your best.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Keep going. How is Disruptive University going now that you've taken it public? Because you'd been doing it internally. How has the response been?
Yeah. It's interesting because it's almost like having a startup while still trying to run another business.
Mm-hmm.
And the marketing industry is being disrupted so much with AI right now that it's like, it's taking a lot of energy to keep the agency relevant and moving in the right direction.
Right.
As well as getting Disruptive University off the ground while trying to write the book and still have 4 kids that I'm trying to be present for and my wife as well. So it's like, I'm like right back in the fire of like, this feels like the early days of starting Disruptive. It's like, you just almost nonstop from like 5 a.m. till 9 p.m.
That's gotta be fun though, in some ways, right?
Yeah. I'm built for this.
Yeah.
When you look at like a rocket ship, it goes through like 90% of its fuel just to get into orbit. Mm-hmm. I am the rocket fuel.
Yeah.
I'm not the one that flies it after it's in orbit.
Yeah.
Like I'm legitimately not good at it. When I get involved in the details of running the day-to-day business, I actually tend to make things worse. What I'm great at is identifying what needs to be done and getting it lifted off the ground and then handing it to capable people,
Yeah.
And so that's the phase that I'm in with Disruptive University right now, is like getting it off the ground. We've had about 150 people go through the program. It is designed currently for marketers, entrepreneurs, and their spouses. My spouse, Teresa, actually takes spouses through the program because she understands that side of the table, And we go through that. We've got one course that's called Authenticity Wins. That's the personal track of getting clear on what are your unique strengths and weaknesses. What are your unique values? How do you uniquely serve the world and provide and receive value, making money in living alignment with those things? So we explore that. We practice awareness, honesty, and responsibility. But for the marketer and for the entrepreneur, a lot of us forget along the way that when a marketer believes in the people, the products, or the cause that they're doing marketing for, it's like, watch out, man, because they can bring that message to life and really help grow a business. When a marketer doesn't believe in what they're marketing, it just feels like lying. It feels like I am showing up to make money by selling crap that I don't believe in to people that it's not helping, so I can buy stuff I don't need that doesn't make me happy either.
Yeah.
It's like marketing is either the best or the worst job in the world. And the same is true for entrepreneurship. If you believe in what you're building beyond making money, dude, that's like a meaningful, fulfilling life.
Yeah.
If you don't believe in what you're building and you're only doing it for money or only doing it to be seen as successful, it becomes hell in that process.
Yeah.
And as a marketer and as an entrepreneur, that's the gold. What makes an individual unique is what transforms their business into something unique. And when you get to the essence of that, it makes them incredibly marketable.
Yeah.
Because now you can actually differentiate and stand out. Yeah. But a lot of businesses really hesitate to go there because they haven't worked through their fears yet. They're still trying to build the business that feeds the facade. But they're not quite ready to plunge into what is the authentic business that I uniquely can create and share with the world. And what if I build the business I love and it doesn't work?
Right.
What if I need to make a pivot and move on from someone that's no longer needed? There's all these fears that come. And I feel like we're at the age now where if you haven't already, I'm sure you will be. It's like kind of like midlife crisis moment where I feel like we go through our 20s and 30s of like, just explore, try everything. But now that I'm 40, it's like, it's really hard to work on things I don't care about.
Yeah.
I had the energy for it in my 20s and 30s. And now I'm like, if I don't believe in what I'm doing, I have no energy or will to do it.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like the best businesses start to emerge. And I see entrepreneurs doing that a lot younger now.
Yeah.
Of being aware, being honest, and actually building something more unique. I still see a lot of entrepreneurs stuck holding on to a business they don't love, feeling trapped by as well. And so that's the whole idea with Disruptive University is I can't give you the answer because you're the only one that knows the answer, but I have frameworks that can point you to your own answers to accelerate that process and move it forward. So we actually go through the process of personal clarity, relationship clarity, and business clarity, where your uniqueness gets to shine through in all of those areas. And then we're building some cool tech on the back end to visualize all of that for them as well.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. Yeah. That's fantastic. That's wonderful. Give me a sense for how AI is changing your core business and the advertising side of things and marketing. It feels like that would be almost an existential crisis for a business like what you have, right? Like, and it sounds like great timing on the university piece, because that seems like great, like perfect for the time and age that we're in. You know what I mean? Because of AI, it actually, so you're in like this interesting dichotomy where like, because of AI, the university piece I see is like being like hugely important. Right. Yeah. And like the perfect timing for that. But then you've got this other, your main business that you've been doing that does seem like kind of a little bit under threat just because of AI. So how are you thinking about that?
Yeah, in life and in business, there's always existential moments, right? And literally what I'm going through as a business right now, what Disruptive has been is legitimately dying. It's just, it will not even be the same business that it was 2 years ago. And it's been hard to work through that because, for example, most business is arbitrage in terms of I see a need that you have and I can solve it more cost effectively than you can, and I'm charging you the difference. Whether that's with a product or a service or whatever, most business is arbitrage that solves an inefficiency in the marketplace. Okay. And so with disruptive advertising, a lot of that was deep specialization within platforms where we could improve performance with strong data and manual optimizations to extract the most value from every marketing dollar spent. Well, most of that's automated now. Okay. And so a lot of what I used to do as a business is no longer relevant the way that it was. And so how are we pivoting and how are we adapting? It really comes down to a couple of things. You've got to be a power AI user. Okay. You have to be great at knowing the right questions to ask, because AI is only as good as your ability to ask it the right questions and to give it the right data. And when you have those things, you can be successful. Okay. So what does that mean practically for my business? It's people don't hire us to push the button in their Google account. They're like, clearly you know where the button is and no one else knows where the button is. No, most of it's automated and our ability to use third-party tracking is severely limited now.
Mm-hmm.
So we take a very different approach. We're not your specialty shop anymore. We're actually bringing a marketing solution to the table where we can use AI to solve 10 things for you instead of one thing for you. Because when these 10 things are working in concert with good data, good creative, good copy, and then we can automate a lot of the work that gets done, we still give you a competitive and differentiated advantage.
Mm.
And so the roles that are becoming hyper relevant and what's marketable, I actually think this is going to be a great thing for my agency.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think the ones that are holding on to the way that they've been doing it will be dead in the next 24 months.
Yeah.
Because why would someone pay them to do what they're doing when it can be done for free or with little effort?
Right.
But what we're bringing to the market, I actually think is we know how to make sure you're asking the right questions, that we have the right data to feed it, and we've differentiated your business because we've helped you get clear on what is your vision beyond making money? What differentiates you? What are your values? What is the true inefficiency that you're solving for your customers? And we can actually put that into a strategy and execution plan where a lot of the execution then becomes automated. But until you put all of those pieces in place, AI is actually not going to get you anywhere from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah.
So that's the roles and the dynamics are pivoting. And then I've actually turned my agency, instead of one large agency, they're now industry specific teams.
Oh, that's smart.
So that they can put the right solution together for the industry specific that they're serving that now solves 10 of the challenges instead of being a specialty shop for all types of businesses as well. So that's how I've been pivoting. I actually think long-term direction, I'm very excited about what that means for the business, but it's been like it's almost like the old business has died or in the process of like finishing dying.
Yeah.
And we're stepping into a new one. And there's employees that get it and are like on board, and there's ones that don't and are getting really frustrated. And when you try to speak truth and clarity, it's like your job won't be relevant in 12 to 18 months. What we're trying to do is to help you, where it feels like you're just changing things and making things harder than it needs to be. And I'm like, yeah. So it's been hard.
Yeah. Yeah. That type of change and that type of overhaul is always hard, right? It's always a huge challenge, and it kind of changes your culture too, right? It's kind of what you're saying is like, how employees view what they do every day and their relationship to the company changes if the whole company changes. That's just like a whole new culture almost, which is really interesting. Tell me about your decision to not raise money. I mean, you're an agency, so you're not necessarily like a tech startup. But still at this point, like a lot of people are taking it. I think it's incredible that you haven't, right? I mean, look at the control you have over your company and your business. Like, give us a sense for like how you stayed true to that.
Yeah. It's, there's a few things that play into that, but number one is I'm an entrepreneur and I don't want a boss. The second you take debt or equity, I don't care how you spin it, you have a boss.
Mm-hmm.
And what that means is what they care about now matters and influences the decisions that I can make, right? And so one of my core values is like, I really value freedom and adventure. And so anything that limits that for me, I'm like, I just can't do it. And I've had opportunities to sell. I've had opportunities to raise, to try, because the idea behind raising is so you can take market share faster and you can create a bigger pie. So even though you've got a smaller piece, you're still better off for it, right? But I just haven't been willing to lose the control and like the autonomy, because even if they're a minority owner and I still do whatever I want, that doesn't feel authentic for me. I'm like, I know I'm going to change my mind and I know I'm going to pivot the business, and that might not give you short-term what you're looking for from your investment. And I can't let that stop me from making the decisions that I need to make.
Yeah.
And so for me, what has happened is I had a brief but highly successful software wholesaling company that lived and died, but made me a few $100,000 pretty young. That gave me the working capital that I needed to start the agency, and gave me like, that probably saved me 3 or 4 years, Clint, of like getting the business going. And then before I started Disruptive University, it's like, I've already kind of been able to get enough of my net worth and liquidity out of the business through profitability that it's like, I'm in a place to take that risk again.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I could have gone through all of that faster, maybe if I took on debt or raised capital, but I just know myself really well. And it's like, these are kind of the criteria that once they're met, I'm willing to start taking more risk again. And it feels like life it just cues it up perfectly. Because my heyday for the business was 2019 through mid 2022. Everyone was spending so much on marketing, and we were having customers call us sometimes on a weekly basis to say, spend another million. And we're taking a percentage of that. And it's like that was kind of the moment. Right. And then we've kind of been on a lull where companies are a little more hesitant to spend on marketing, and we've been pivoting, but I'm like, but that's kind of what set us up to do that as well.
Yeah.
And my experience in business and what I've seen pretty broadly is every 10 years, you're going to have like 3 or 4 really good ones, probably like 3 pretty dang crappy ones. And then like 3 or 4 kind of grind and it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And if you make the most and don't waste all of the good years that you've got, you kind of set yourself up to build that next phase of the business as well. And I think the other part is just like, I grew up in such a conservative home, politically, religiously, monetarily, where I'm like, I don't know. It was like infused into my DNA to not take debt of any sort, which I think raising capital is, like equity raises, I still see as a form of debt.
Yeah, same. It was so bad to take debt. I mean, we grew up, obviously we went to the same high school together, so pretty similar cultural. But like, my word, like, remember how bad debt was?
Mm-hmm.
I can't even believe like people get into like such insane debt. It's kind of wild, that part. Anyways, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
As you've been like building your course in your university, and what have you been reading? You mentioned leadership and self-deception. What else have you read? What else has kind of played a role in, or what else, what else do you consume that kind of plays a role into the overall philosophy that you teach and principles that you teach?
So I had the chance, I feel like I'm pretty agnostic most things as it relates to politics, religions. Like, I feel like there's a lot of extremes out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like you're not like a sovereign person until you can see both sides of it, understand where both are coming from, and come to your own conclusions and make your own decisions. And, but when I had the chance to serve a mission, and I learned Spanish. And it wasn't until I learned Spanish that I really understood what English was and how the language was constructed and worked and all of those types of things. And so it gave me the context to understand 2 different languages, but my native language even better, right?
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in such a conservative Christian home that I didn't feel like I had the context to even understand it until I started being introduced to Michael Singer as one of my favorite authors, and understanding I'm not the voice in my head and I'm not my body. I'm the essence that kind of sits behind those things. And then Eckhart Tolle's like my buddy, and Richard Rohr, and all of a sudden, like and Alan Watts, and all of a sudden I'm being introduced to Eastern philosophy, culture, and religion, which is a lot about detachment and not attaching yourself to things in this world.
Alan Watts is mind blowing.
He's
the Alan Watts phase is a wild phase in your life.
And so all of a sudden, as I'm going through that, I'm like, oh my gosh, understanding more of this Eastern, because Western culture is all about what you can build and create. And then Eastern is about what can you let go of.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
That's a great way to put that. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, when you're like, well, I don't know that either have all the answers, but now that I understand both sides of the equation, I feel like that's what's leading me more down the path that I'm taking with life, business, philosophy, spirituality.
If you like Alan Watts, you'll love Anthony DeMello.
Okay, good. Yeah. I've been looking for that next one. So
you'll love Anthony DeMello. He's great. Yeah, I remember the Alan Watts phase of my life where I'm like, this is wild. This is good. But then you get into like Nietzsche and you're like, everything sucks. Like the world, like why do we do anything? Why would we even, morality's for losers, basically. Things get pretty dark the further down. That's why it's really interesting. And like to bring these principles, I think now into the space of entrepreneurship and business and leadership and to be a CEO, I see that as like more critical than ever before in the history of business, right? Like, because how you live your life and how you think and how you structure things becomes the whole thing. Because AI is about to do all of your business for you, right? And so what becomes the most critical is almost like taste or philosophy or, you know what I mean? Like, that's why what you're doing right now with Disruptive University and the book you're writing, which I want to ask you about, that feel like that couldn't be more aptly timed, man.
Yeah. And I agree. And I really do feel like AI I almost hesitate to call anything good or bad because it's ultimately, we learn from the good and the bad of life. So how do you call one good or bad? But I think what it will be used for that I'm excited about is it will allow us to experience more of what life has to offer us. I think if we use it as a way to check out of life, that's I think the risk of AI. And I think the benefit of AI is now some of those things that were consuming so much of my time and energy that are done for me, I can experience this fear that I've been hesitating on forever. I can take the shot over here. I can be more present with my kids. Yeah. I can experience more of what life has to offer. And I actually think we're the game that life is playing.
Yeah.
And it sends us experiences that like touch your heart, that are like so beautiful or so sad. And any good song plays all the notes, right? And so I think AI is opening that up, but I think like anything, it will also be a tool to escape life from. But what I'm excited about is I think it's a tool to experience more of life.
Yeah. I think that's true. That's the promise. That's the hope. Let's not because we see how technology can go south. I mean, the hope and promise of social media was we'd all be connected and we'd be sharing ideas and we'd all get closer together and we wouldn't be so divisive. And the exact opposite happened.
Yeah. Well,
we became
probably
like
both happened.
Both happened for sure. But you know what I mean? But like overall, I'm not sure that you can say it's been a net positive. You know what I mean? Who knows? Like it's each individual's experience.
Yeah.
But that's the scary thing about AI is, the one that you pointed out is like you could check out of just like life in general.
Like when you really think about it, it will eventually create the opportunity to completely check out.
Yeah, which is awful. That's very scary. Tell us about the book. What's that process been like? How far along are you?
So it is written. We're in just final editing.
Congrats, man. That's huge.
Plan to in the next 90 days or so. It's called Authenticity Wins. Right. And high level, we start, I just share a lot of even some of the experiences that we just walked through as well, but understanding the mind, the body, and the spirit, and that most fear comes from the mind and the body. And on the other side of that fear is the life experience that you're actually looking for. We understand and practice awareness, honesty, and responsibility there, and explore a couple of frameworks that help us discover that, which is unique strengths and weaknesses. For most of my life, I thought I was supposed to just be good at everything. And I felt guilty, even building my own business, that if I asked someone to do the parts I didn't like, that I was being an asshole. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden I'm like, wait, people love doing those parts and would hate to do the parts that I do, right? So we explore strengths and weaknesses. Both are a gift to the world. Your strengths are how you serve the world. Your weaknesses are how the world serves you, right? Values, most people have not clearly defined what their personal values are. And when you've got that clarity and now you're making life decisions, you've got something to lean up against. When you understand your unique strengths and weaknesses and your values and how life taught those to you, you start to understand that the lens that you see the world with, you're the only one that sees it that way. The only one that sees the world the way that you see it. And as a result, you can serve the world in a way that no one else can. And when you lean into that, that's when you win in a way that is more fulfilling. That is the authenticity wins principle behind the book. A lot of people get it mixed up with, I just get to do whatever I want. People get to deal with it because I'm just being authentic, which is the opposite of authenticity. That's someone that says, I want to do whatever I want and not experience consequences.
That's narcissism.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Exactly.
And so it's almost a little controversial to say authenticity wins because I feel like it's been bastardized quite a bit.
Yeah.
But authenticity, uniqueness expressed is like, dude, me, everyone has something unique to offer the world. And the sooner you start exploring what that is, it's like, if you don't do it, who will?
Yeah.
Because no one's ever going to have the life experiences that you've had.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm excited to see people step into. So the authenticity wins. I'm on a quest to record 788,000 instances of people choosing authenticity and working through their fear and recording what happened.
Wait,
as a result.
why that number? That's such a specific random number.
Right. Research shows that even an introverted person throughout the course of their lifetime, their influence will impact about 10,000 people. Okay. So I said, well, if I'll use that as the baseline number. And if I envision a world where everyone has the courage to live authentically, I took the world population divided by 10,000, that's 788,000 roughly.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And if we can record that many happen and share those with the world, I think that's how we live that vision of a world where everyone has the courage to be authentic.
And you're doing a podcast?
Uh-huh.
When is that launched yet? Or is that going to launch around the same time as the book? Or
it'll launch a little bit before the book. We're actively recording episodes right now.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So what type of guests are you focusing on there? Is it called Authenticity Wins too? Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, perfect.
So it's two things. One, people that are more experts on the matter of like, what is authenticity? And I don't want people to hear just my angle on it. I want them to hear a variety of angles on it so they can come to their own conclusions. And then situations where people have worked through their fear and shared what only they could share with the world. Yeah. Those are the two types of experiences that I want.
Yeah, that's going to be huge because you have the tools to market it.
Yeah.
So your book, I already know your book is going to be successful. Your podcast because you know how to do it. Like you've done this for, so many other people that you're going to nail this part of it for sure. Did you find a publisher? Did you self-publish? How did you decide to do that?
So I found a group that I'm working with that's independent and still debating on the right promotional strategy for it. That's like right where we're at in the process.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
But it's almost kind of like you got to finish it. I wrote the first version, realized it wasn't what it needed to be. And then you've kind of got to go through it again and then again. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to market something until you kind of know what the finished product is. So that's what we're actively doing right now.
That's cool. It's exciting, man. That's so cool. That's very cool. Well, tell me a little bit about how you teach people how to identify their personal values in your course or in the book, or how do you think about that? Like, how do you go beyond just like surface level? Like, I want to be a good person and, peace in the world, like, how do you actually like identify real personal values?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways that I think about that. The framework that I always use is awareness, honesty, and responsibility. So when it comes to values, one of the things that I encourage people to think about is what are some of the experiences you've had in your life that were beautiful, gave you endless energy, that just felt great to you. Then I also ask them to think of some of the most painful ones they've experienced, because in both of those situations, you've identified a value and an anti-value, but it's just the inverse of the value, right? I also encourage them to think of who are people that inspire you and why do they inspire you? And when they list out some of their attributes, they start listing their own values. When I say like, Clint, who's someone that you just like would, if you could, with no consequence, just totally punch them in the face and kick them in the ribs while they're down because you just don't like them?
Yeah.
And why? What are the attributes?
I'm trying to think of someone.
Right? Those are the anti-values, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, life has taught me what my values are. So like, for example, one of mine is like adventure. If I'm not trying something new, if I'm not putting myself out there, I'm kind of dying on the inside. Right? And so like, if I'm creating an environment where I've got to be the steady Eddie and consistent and like, I feel dead. Right? And so like, I've learned that adventure is one of those for me, and it's scary because I'm putting myself out there, you know what I mean? But like, that's a big deal for me.
Well, what do you mean by adventure? Like, give us a sense for what that means for you.
It's not an adventure until you don't know what's next. It's having the courage to act on something you feel inspired to do, not quite knowing what the outcome is going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
And so whether that's with physical things or family experiences or writing the book, I don't know. The course, the book, all these things, I'm like, I don't know how these are going to go.
Yeah.
And that's when you're in your heart and not lost in your head, because you're just acting on it. And that to me is adventure, right?
I like that, in your heart, not lost in your head. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Hopefully that line's in the book.
I think it's in there somewhere.
Yeah, that's a good line, man.
Yeah.
Finally, we talk a lot about chances and the chances we give and the chances we take on ourselves, right? When you hear that, who gave you a chance to get you to where you are today?
That's a long list. makes me emotional even just thinking about it. There was a guy, I told you I had a little software wholesaling business. A guy that I didn't know at all fronted me $100,000 to help me buy more and sell more inventory. Didn't sign anything, didn't do whatever, just like created the capital that created an awesome environment for me. But like without a doubt, the person that has taken a chance on me and bet on me is my wife, Teresa, like hands down. And for most of our life, she has an incredible ability to step back and see the big picture and to provide some discernment on how to move forward. I'm more of a jump in before I've thought through all the way, right? Like I didn't make sure the water was deep enough before I jumped off the cliff and I might hurt myself type thing. And for a lot of my relationship, for the first 10 years, it bugged me. It felt like she didn't trust me. She didn't believe in me when she would try and ask questions to understand the big picture and help discern the way forward. And, but I have realized that like the business partner I wish I'd always had is the business partner that was always there with me, my wife. And now when I'm feeling stuck, I'm like, I need someone to help me zoom out and really understand how to move forward. Cause now I'm trying to move 80 things forward. And what does that mean? Cause I haven't stepped back and understood what matters most.
Yeah.
And, so anyway, she's the one that's taken the biggest chance on me and has created that environment for me. And now I appreciate it. I didn't always appreciate it. And I'm not 100% there, but most of the time I deeply value that now.
That's awesome. Cenk, thanks for coming on. I don't know when we'll put this out, probably before your book launches, but everybody make sure you check it out. Check out Disruptive University, hire Disruptive Advertising. There's no one better than you at all that stuff. That's how I know your podcast and book is going to be super successful because you guys are the best at marketing, period. So thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah. Thanks, Clint.
That was awesome, man.